Hello, creators, and welcome to Rediscovering Be Something Wonderful, where we revisit timeless classics from deep within our video archives. What if the moment that feels most uncertain is the very moment that changes everything? What if deadlines, due dates, and final notices have never had the power to decide your reality? In this video, you'll discover why Neville Goddard never feared the evidence in front of him, why the appearance that time is running out is only part of the current script, not the one you're choosing, and why the moment you remain faithful to your wish fulfilled, reality has no choice but to rearrange itself to reflect it, even in ways that seem impossible. Because nothing is ever final until you decide it is. Now, let's rediscover the extraordinary simplicity of consciously creating the life of your wildest dreams. Welcome back to Be Something Wonderful.
And this question came up on the channel yesterday from a subscriber that's not a member of the membership channel. So I really wanted to get this out for this subscriber because she has been with me since the beginning. And she's just been such an important part of Be Something Wonderful. And I really want to get this answer out to her because it came up again yesterday in one of my sessions that saw your posting on the membership channel. And the situation with this subscriber is that she's been in a house that she really enjoys. But there was a looming deadline. And the looming deadline was in 2 years when she started this. And so she started out, I'm going to get all her comments on here so we can really unpack this and really help her and really move everybody. She says, I've been manifesting that I'll continue to be able to live in this particular house that I'm currently in. And she goes on to say that she's been manifesting it for 2 years. And now the deadline's approaching. And now she doesn't know whether she should look for an apartment, whether she looks for an apartment, she's not staying in her assumption, or what she should do. She's feeling torn, she says. So I want to cover this today and more. We're really going to do a big unpacking here for you. So here's where I want to start, and we're going to really pull this apart for you. Your wish fulfilled. Your imagined end, your assumption that it's done, and you are already the version of yourself living in your desired end, exists where? In the here and now. Or it doesn't exist at all. I've said this before, but when you imagine something, when you assume it, it exists here and now, or it can't exist at all. Do you see this? It's right now. That imagined end is right now. So every time you talk about being torn or not know what to do or where is it or it's been 2 years, you're making an assumption that desired end, that assumption's not here and now. That it exists somewhere in some imagined future and that you're trying to make it happen. That's what I wanted to start with. Remember, it's important for this context that I've talked about before. Fulfillment is beyond time and space. It's right now. When you imagine it, when you desire it, it's right now. So let's start with what you wrote. The first line, I have been manifesting that I will continue to be able to live in this particular house that I'm currently in. But is that really your assumption? I know it's what you want your assumption to be. But it feels like your assumption is, I may not be able to continue to live in this house. Do you see it just from what you wrote, right? And we can talk about that, no, this is what I really meant, but the evidence is the evidence right now. But we're going to turn that around and make it the evidence of the unseen and get back in that assumption. Are you feeling, hear this, are you feeling the love of living there here and now? For those 2 years where you were, quote, manifesting to continue to live there, were you loving living there? Were you just grateful for it? Were you enjoying it now? Because that means it would continue. Do you see this? This struggle and with this looming deadline that's been in the back of your mind, that's been the real assumption, is that you won't continue to live there, right? And that some event has to happen in 3D before that deadline's up, so you can continue to live where you've already been living, right? Have you been loving that? Have you been enjoying that? These are just questions, right? So, and then you continue. You said the deadline is literally just drawing closer and closer, literally. You're giving it all the reality. Literal means reality. You're giving that deadline reality. You're giving it solidity. You're giving it life, right? Look at what are you manifesting? That's coming from lack. That's coming from worry. That's coming from non-fulfillment, right? And then you say, and you do a capital if here, a capital if it doesn't happen, in other words, if it doesn't happen, I put happen because you didn't, for whatever reason, I'm going to have to start looking for new apartments. Now you've opened the door here. It's been, you've already considered it, that's a possibility. Non-fulfillment is a great possibility, right? If it doesn't happen for whatever reason, well, you decide the reasons, right? Remember, the thing is there, and oh yeah, and then you said the thing is, there are other people involved. Now you're layering on other levels of resistance, right? Other 3D conditions that must be overcome, other obstacles that must be overcome, other facts that can't be changed. But they can be changed, but you're saying they can't by introducing this. The thing is, these facts can't be changed. There are other people involved, right? I'm torn. I'm in a state of resistance. For 2 years, instead of loving it and being grateful every day that I know it's happening right now, that I'm in that eternal now, I've been in the assumption that it's not going to continue. Again, how I can't believe, and then you say, I can't believe how long this is taking. Linear time, right? Disbelief. Here you got a distinct belief in linear time here, right? And then you say there are desired end stories that have been literally persisted in for up to 2 years, that I've literally persisted in for up to 2 years. Effort in time, right? Remember, those imagined stories, that they only have power in their implication, but what they're implying is something won't continue after a certain deadline. That's what your stories are really imagining, right? You're absolutely, and then you say absolutely nothing has happened. Total assumption. Look where you're at. You're not in the wish fulfilled. You haven't been in it. It's impossible for all that to come out if you've been in the wish fulfilled. I mean, does this really work? Now you're doubting imagination, reality creation, all of it. It does work. Because look, you have manifested being in that for 2 years. You've been in the place you love for 2 years, right? That's a manifestation. But what you've been creating during that 2 years is this deadline, is this possibility that you can't continue. Do you see it? But we've got the light for you today. This is not, again, I get it. And again, you're going to say to me, well, Tom, but there's other things going on that you don't know. It doesn't matter. Do you get it here? It's here. It's all right here. So for 2 years, instead of persisting in the love of living in and enjoying the house, you've been focused on the deadline and the possibility of not continuing to live there. Do you get it? Right? Instead of just in loving it and enjoying it in that eternal moment of now, with the absolute assumption and knowing that you'll continue to live there no matter what deadlines pass, right? Instead of feeling fulfillment and gratitude and love, you are feeling lack and you're feeling pressure, right? In fact, you have manifested 2 years of continuing to be able to live in this particular house. Right? That's a lot to be grateful for. But the true invisible assumption, your true invisible assumption, is that a deadline is looming. A deadline is coming. And I have to move unless something happens. I got to move unless something happens because of this deadline. Because there's other people involved. There's other facts that look very real, right? 3D obstacles and conditions, other people involved. Wow. So Deadlines and linear time considerations are assumed 3D limitations that are irrelevant in the dimensionally larger reality. They're irrelevant. I know they feel relevant in 3D. That's the nature of 3D reality. It's the great trick. It's the great cosmic joke. It does seem real. Should I start browsing apartments for rent just in case, or should I literally try and sit it out a bit longer? Listen to the wording, sit it out, tolerate it, right? Like a hostage, right? It's a hostage situation. We're going to sit it out and wait, right? You're in bondage to your own assumptions here. Should I start browsing apartments? Remember, just because you browse apartments, that's following the script. Remember, there's a script that's been written. I'm going to get to this in this video today. And when you want to sit and wait it out, when you don't want to look for apartments or you're resisting the current script, that reality where the deadline looms, where the deadline comes up, and even the possibility that you're not in that house, that reality exists. You can't resist that. How do you move realities and how do you change film rolls? That film's been shot. That reality, that script is written. How do you do it? By imagining and assuming that desired end and nothing else. Staying in that assumption and following the script. If the script says, I'm looking for apartments, then I'm looking for apartments. Right? Remember, what you do in 3D doesn't matter. It's what you're feeling and imagining within. You can look for apartments, and then there's no pressure. Right? You know it's just a script. You know you're just acting. You're the actor looking for apartments, knowing you're playing a role in that film role, and that in the meantime, as you imagine your desired end, you know you're going to be in a new film role. Do you see this, right? It's only your resistance to the script and the current frame, right? The frame is the current 3D reality in the film roll, right? Film rolls make up all these infinite frames. Imagine reality, right, of all these infinite film rolls all rolled up, and you're looking from above. You see all the frames of life. You get to determine it. You can't change any one film roll, any one script, but you can choose a new film roll that comes with a new script. The scripts are written in each reality. The scripts are written in each film roll. Creation's finished. But you can choose the lifeline, the film roll, the alternative reality that includes the script that leads to your wish fulfilled, right? Follow the script consciously while illuminating and imagining your desired end. And that's what we're talking about. Resisting looking for apartment, feeling torn, knowing there's other people involved, all comes from resisting the script. Follow that script, because when you do, you're inserting a new film roll. As you imagine your desired end, as you stay in your assumption, and you move with that frame, with that illuminated frame, you move to a new film roll. It gets inserted into a new film roll, into a new reality. And I'm going to show you this in a few minutes. So, Neville Goddard, the great Neville Goddard, right, talks about this when he says in 1943, when he got out of the army, right, he was looking for an apartment. And here's what he says. When we found the apartment, the rent was more than we had planned to pay. My wife said, well, and here's his wife, that's not demonstrating this principle, is it? So his wife, Neville's wife's pressing him. You're supposed to be the great creator, the great imaginer, God. And we're paying more than we planned. What does Neville say? I said nothing. He said nothing. Instead, where did he go? In his imagination. If he resisted this, he'd be resisting the script, right? That's the script in that film roll, in that reality. How do you change it? How do you choose a new film roll? By imagining and assuming your desired end, and only that. In the meantime, following the script. That might mean paying the rent. That might mean looking for a new apartment. Do you see this, right? Neville followed the script. He says here, I simply paid the months of September and October. But when I went to pay November rent, that's when the big manifestation happened. Hear this. He moves in a new apartment. It's more than they planned. His wife's pressing him. He says nothing. He goes within. He follows the script. He paid September. And then he paid in October. It was more than anybody wanted to pay, but he didn't resist the script. He didn't get downhearted. He didn't doubt it. He stayed on that desired end. Then when he went and paid November, what happened? The manager indicated that the rent is actually less. The amount Neville originally chose to pay. Right? The rent was actually what Neville imagined it would be. The manager, they made a mistake. Right? It was less. And the rent then, not only did he start paying lower rent, the imagined rent, but it was retroactively adjusted for what he paid in November and October and September and October. So it was retroactively, we're shifting times, we're rearranging time and space here. Do you hear this? And it was reduced to the day he moved in. And here's what he says, I got it all back at the beginning of the 3rd month. Wow. Let's see what that looks like. So Neville got it. He says here, it took me 3 months of being faithful to what I had imagined I was paying, even though during that time I was paying more. In other words, I followed the script. Right? Your imagined end, your wish fulfilled, exists in the here and now, or it doesn't exist at all. Neville knew this. Neville knew that that desired end, that image, that reality was already created. It exists here and now in the eternal now, right? It has to, or it doesn't exist at all. But you can't desire it, even think about it, or imagine it if it doesn't exist. So it must exist, just by your sheer imagining of it, your thought of it. Every thought, every feeling, it's there, it means it exists. Right? So Neville, here's what he did. The retroactive reduction of the rent was the 3D effect of that timeless assumption. Hear it again. The retroactive reduction of that rent was the 3D effect of his timeless assumption. He rearranged things in the dimensionally larger reality. And that rearrangement then must be reflected in 3D. How is it reflected? By a retroactive adjustment to rent. To show that it was, and what was the implication? That he paid the imagined rent the entire time. Whew. Powerful. Neville rearranged his story within, right? All events exist here and now. So he just rearranged. It's like having a story and moving the words around. Neville talks about that. And when you move the words around, you create a new story. But that whole story exists. You're just moving the furniture around, right? So Neville rearranged his story to reflect his assumption of wish fulfilled, or his ideal rent. And then that inner rearrangement, that invisible rearrangement must be reflected in 3D reality, just as you can rearrange words elsewhere in a story to tell a different story. So let's show this, guys. Remember, A Course in Miracles says the script is written. Neville Goddard says creation is finished. You can't change the existing script in any particular film role. In other words, you can't change the script or in any particular lifeline or parallel reality. It's written, but you can change or move to a new film role, a new lifeline, a new parallel or alternative reality. How? You choose a new film role that implies a new favorable script. How do you do that? By imagining your end, by assuming that desired end, right? You choose a new film role that implies a new favorable script. You can never change the script. When the film is shot, the film is shot. The script is a script. But you can choose a new film role, choose a new lifeline, a new parallel reality that has the script that you want, that has the script that's leading you to what you want. How? By imagining how you would like things to be as if they already are, by persisting in your assumption of wish fulfilled, by going within, creating a simple scene. Neville, what did he do? He created a scene that he was paying the ideal rent the entire time, right? Resisting or trying to choose the current script. Resisting or trying to change the current script, a film that's already been shot, keeps you trapped in the undesired reality. Keeps you trapped in that current film frame, right? That you see as so solid, right? Don't oppose, compose, as Neil Donald Walsh says, through God. Don't resist, persist, as all the spiritual greats say. Don't react, create. Don't wait, illuminate your new future frame, and then follow the script. Do you see this? The same goes for the subscriber. Don't wait. Don't wait for something to happen. Don't wait for some looming event, right? Instead, imagine that future, but then follow the script. Totally resistance-free, right? Look for a new apartment. It doesn't matter. You're moving to the new script. So how did Neville do it? Here's the picture of it. Remember I showed you how this would represent one lifeline, one film roll, one alternative reality, and there are an infinite number in that film archive, in the eternity of that all that isness, right? And this film roll, imagine there's just an infinite number. This is your current film roll. And this is the example with Neville. September and October on this film roll have passed. He was paying more. See the $3 signs there. He was paying more than what he planned or wanted or what he imagined. Looking, and this is where he was looking and found an apartment, and he paid more than he imagined for 2 months, right? But while he was doing this, he was illuminating his future, the future frame where he was only paying his ideal amount, less than that. $2 signs versus 3. He was faithful to the assumption, faithful to the assuming and the imagining of paying an ideal rent, right? And then in the current frame, the current reality, he went to pay November rent. Remember the story. He goes, I went to pay November rent. That's the current frame. He's been imagining. He's been following the script. This is now past in this current lifeline. This is now the present current 3D conditions where he's going to pay November rent. That's his imagined future. That's the imagined frame. Now, as you imagine that future, as you create a simple imaginal act, you go into a state akin to sleep or an alpha state, and you imagine it real, right? Remember, it's the implication. You see yourself paying that rent for 2 months. You see yourself in your house, just enjoying it, just loving it, right? That's the future frame. Then when he did that, he moved with the imagined future frame to a new reality. In other words, to a new imagined film roll. Here's the new film roll. So what happened? In November, right? In the beginning of November, not only was it discovered that the rent's lower, but that he got a retroactive adjustment for the September and October rent. What's the implication? What's the rearrangement in 3D reality? What's the effect of that? The effect is that September is the ideal rent, October is the ideal rent, and November is the ideal rent. Do you see it? He moved to a lifeline. That future frame got inserted into a new reality, into a new lifeline, into a new film roll, where a script was now favorable to what he wanted. Invisible, this is what Neville says, invisible states, when properly rearranged, will externalize what they imply. For the potency of every imaginal act is in the implication. That's what happened. How did it rearrange itself? By a retroactive adjustment that gave the effect of only paying the ideal rent the whole time. That's powerful, right? That really is manifesting your wish fulfilled under the pressure of a looming deadline. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators and members, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for liking the videos and sharing them. And just thank you, and thank you for being, if you've joined the membership channel, thank you for being a member of that. There is a video coming out today. It's big. It's coming out on the membership channel. Just thank you for being you. And I really want to thank that subscriber that's been with me since the beginning, because I know that you'll continue this apartment. When you shift into this knowing, then it's yours. It's done. I promise. You know this, right? This is how it works. It's law. And I've even heard you say it. Guys, don't forget that you can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/BeSomethingWonderful. We have a Facebook organization page at Be Something Wonderful. You can also like that. You can visit us on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin. You can join our membership channel. There's a link below. And guys, or you just visit our website anytime for all that information and more at tomkearin.com or besomethingwonderful.com. With great love, with great light, and really, really infinite gratitude. This is Tom. We'll see you a little bit later today on the membership channel.